The Book of Sirach, also called Ecclesiasticus, is one of the most overlooked writings of ancient wisdom, yet it holds treasures that speak directly into the challenges of modern life. Many people have never heard of it because it is missing from some Bibles, while in others it is preserved as part of the sacred tradition. But those who take the time to explore its message quickly discover that it carries the same strength, clarity, and beauty found in Proverbs and Psalms. It offers timeless lessons about humility, friendship, discipline, family, and the way wisdom shapes ordinary choices. In rediscovering Sirach, we rediscover a voice that is both ancient and surprisingly fresh. This book was written in Jerusalem during a time of political pressure and cultural change, when the Jewish people were surrounded by foreign influences that threatened their traditions. Its author, Jesus, son of Sirach, responded not with rebellion or compromise, but with wisdom. He gathered teachings rooted in the scriptures and combined them with insights from daily life, creating a work that would guide people toward faithfulness in uncertain times. He understood that the strength of a people is not found in wealth or armies, but in wisdom that flows from God and is lived out in daily choices. For centuries, this wisdom was cherished. It was included in the Greek translation of the Old Testament, read by early Christians, and quoted by teachers who saw in it a reflection of divine truth. Yet in some traditions, it was later set aside, leaving many unaware of its treasures. That is why returning to Sirach is so important today. It gives us back a voice that can steady our steps in a world that often feels chaotic, reminding us that the answers we seek are not new inventions, but ancient truths waiting to be rediscovered. What makes Sirach so powerful is how practical it is. It does not limit itself to lofty ideas, but deals with the real struggles of life. How to speak with care, how to build true friendships, how to handle wealth and poverty, how to respect parents, and how to live with humility. These are lessons that touch every person, regardless of time or place. In this way, the book reaches across centuries to offer guidance that is as relevant in our age of distraction and pride as it was in the days of its author. At the core of its teaching is the conviction that wisdom is not a human invention, but a gift of God. Knowledge alone can never bring peace, but wisdom rooted in reverence for the Lord transforms lives. This is why Sirach's message endures, because it points beyond human strength to divine guidance, reminding us that true understanding begins not with pride in ourselves, but with humility before God. His words echo the truth declared in Psalm 111 verse 10, that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. If you enjoy uncovering forgotten treasures of Scripture and exploring lessons that can shape daily life, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like to help others discover it, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support not only helps this channel grow, but also allows more people to encounter the wisdom of Sirach and apply it to their own journey of faith. Behind the words of Sirach stands a man, a teacher whose name was Jesus, son of Sirach, often referred to simply as Ben Sirach. He lived in Jerusalem around 2 centuries before the time of Christ, during a period of political instability, cultural pressure, and growing influence of foreign powers. For the Jewish people, this was a time of both opportunity and threat, as Hellenistic ideas swept through the region and began to challenge long-held traditions. In such a climate, Ben Sirach sought to preserve the faith and wisdom of his ancestors. His purpose was not only to guard the treasures of the past, but also to present them in a way that would guide his contemporaries in living faithfully within a rapidly changing world. Ben Sirach was not a prophet in the dramatic sense of calling down visions from heaven or speaking of distant futures. Instead, he was a sage, a man of learning who studied the scriptures and reflected deeply on human experience. He understood that wisdom is discovered in the patterns of daily life, in the way one treats others, in how one honors God, and in how one responds to trials and temptations. His teaching was shaped by observation and reflection, drawing upon both the sacred texts of Israel and the lessons of lived reality. In this way, he stood as a bridge between tradition and practice, offering insights that were both deeply rooted and immediately applicable. One reason his writings remain so powerful is the humility with which he approached his task. Ben Sirach did not claim to create new wisdom, but rather to gather, organize, and expand upon what had already been entrusted to Israel. He saw himself as a steward of a great inheritance, ensuring that future generations would not lose sight of it. His grandson, who later translated the work into Greek, recognized the importance of this effort and introduced the book with admiration for his grandfather's devotion to preserving truth. This shows us the seriousness with which Ben Sirach approached his role, not for personal fame, but for the good of his people. To understand his world is to recognize the pressures that made such a work necessary. The Jewish people lived under foreign rule, influenced by Greek culture, language, and philosophy. Many were tempted to abandon their ancestral traditions in order to fit into the dominant culture. Ben Sirach saw the danger of this assimilation. He understood that without wisdom rooted in God, a people could lose not only their identity, but also their moral foundation. His teachings became a defense, not with weapons or armies, but with the enduring strength of truth. The figure of Ben Sirach reminds us that wisdom is not an abstract concept, but a lived reality taught by real people in real circumstances. His life illustrates the role of teachers and mentors in shaping societies. He was not a ruler, a soldier, or a politician, yet his influence has endured for centuries, outlasting the empires of his time. His choice to write down his teachings was itself an act of foresight, recognizing that the spoken word could fade, but the written word could endure. Through his writings, he continues to speak, not only to his descendants, but to anyone willing to listen across the generations. The vision he offered was not only for scholars or priests, but for ordinary men and women. He wrote about relationships, speech, family life, work, wealth, and the daily choices that define character. His wisdom did not remain in lofty heights, but descended into the marketplace, the home, and the community. This accessibility was part of his genius, for it allowed every person to find guidance for their particular struggles. He understood that true wisdom must reach the heart of everyday life if it is to have any lasting impact. In many ways, Ben Sirach reflects the essence of Israel's wisdom tradition, a tradition that sought to connect divine truth with human living. His words remind us that God's guidance is not limited to grand spiritual moments, but is present in every decision, every relationship, and every challenge. He taught his listeners to recognize the presence of God in the ordinary and to see that every act, however small, carries weight when aligned with righteousness. Today, when we look back on Ben Sirach, we see not only an ancient teacher but a reminder of the importance of preserving wisdom across generations. In a world that often celebrates novelty and overlooks the past, his example calls us to honor what has been handed down, to treasure the lessons of those who came before us, and to ensure that truth is not lost amid the noise of change. His work invites us to recognize that wisdom is not only a gift, but a responsibility, something to be received, lived, and passed on. One of the most striking themes in Sirach is his repeated emphasis on humility. In a world that often celebrates pride, ambition, and self-promotion, he offers a voice that reminds us of the true path to wisdom. Humility, he teaches, is not weakness but strength, not defeat but victory. It opens the heart to learning, to growth, and to the guidance of God. Pride, on the other hand, blinds a person, leading them to ruin by shutting out both truth and correction. Sirach knew that without humility, no one could ever truly be wise. He writes with clarity that the proud are an abomination to the Lord, but the humble find favor. These words cut against the grain of human instinct, for pride often feels like the natural way to protect oneself, to assert importance, to gain recognition. Yet Sirach unmasks this illusion by showing that pride isolates, while humility connects. Pride makes a person unteachable, but humility makes them receptive. Pride closes the heart, but humility opens it. In this way, humility becomes the crown of wisdom, a virtue that adorns and strengthens all others. The practical consequences of humility are evident in daily life. A humble person listens more than they speak, seeks understanding before judgment, and values others instead of always demanding their own way. Such a spirit diffuses conflict, fosters peace, and nurtures relationships. By contrast, pride fuels quarrels, breeds resentment, and destroys trust. Sirach understood these dynamics well, warning his readers that arrogance leads not to honor, but to downfall. His words remind us that humility is not simply about personal attitude, but about creating harmony in community. Humility also shapes how one approaches God. A proud heart assumes self-sufficiency, but a humble heart recognizes dependence. Sirach's emphasis here echoes the Psalms, where it is written in Psalm 25 verse 9 that God guides the humble in what is right and teaches them His way. To be humble is to be teachable by God, to acknowledge that His wisdom surpasses human understanding. This is why humility is not only a virtue among virtues, but the very foundation of spiritual growth. Without it, a person cannot truly seek or receive divine wisdom. The beauty of humility is that it does not diminish a person, but elevates them in the right way. Sirach often contrasts false honor with true honor, showing that those who exalt themselves will be brought low, but those who lower themselves in service and reverence will be lifted up. This paradox reflects a deeper truth. Greatness in God as sight comes not from prideful displays, but from a humble spirit that walks faithfully. Such greatness may not always be recognized by the world, but it carries eternal value. For those seeking to live humbly today, Sirach's words remain practical. In a culture that rewards self-promotion, humility may seem outdated or impractical, yet it proves its worth in every sphere of life. Leaders who govern with humility gain trust. Families marked by humility experience harmony, and friendships grounded in humility endure trials. It is humility that allows for forgiveness, reconciliation, and the ability to place others before self. The wisdom of Sirach offers not only a challenge, but also a promise that those who walk in humility will find favor with both God and people. Humility also requires constant attention, for pride often creeps in unnoticed. Even acts of virtue can be corrupted when performed for recognition. Sirach warns against seeking honor for its own sake, reminding us that honor pursued is often empty, but honor received through righteousness is lasting. This insight encourages self-examination, calling each person to check their motives and to cultivate a heart that truly seeks truth rather than applause. When we reflect on Sirach's teaching about humility, we see how it remains a timeless answer to the arrogance and self-centeredness that trouble every age. The wisdom he offers is not only a correction to personal pride, but also a remedy for the divisions and conflicts that pride creates in societies. To wear humility as a crown is to carry oneself with dignity, patience, and reverence, bringing light to a world often darkened by selfish ambition. Among the many insights of Sirach, his reflections on friendship stand out with remarkable clarity. He understood that relationships are at the heart of human life, and he recognized the difference between shallow acquaintances and true friends. His words paint a picture of loyalty, faithfulness, and trust that withstands the trials of time and hardship. Friendship for him was not a convenience, but a treasure, something rare and precious that brings joy and strength when nurtured with sincerity. Sirach acknowledges that many relationships appear solid when life is easy, but their true nature is revealed in times of difficulty. He warns against those who call themselves friends, but vanish when hardships come. Such companions may enjoy prosperity or share in pleasures, yet they are absent in the hour of need. True friends, by contrast, remain steadfast, standing beside one another not only in laughter but also in sorrow, not only in success but also in trial. His insights ring with realism, for he knew that loyalty is tested most when life is hardest. The qualities of true friendship described by Sirach align with virtues of integrity and selflessness. A real friend does not exploit or betray, but supports and protects. Such a friend shares burdens, offers counsel, and provides comfort without expectation of gain. These qualities are not found in abundance, which is why Sirach presents true friendship as something rare, to be cherished and guarded. His teaching reminds us that friendship is not built quickly, but forged over time through trust, sacrifice, and mutual respect. Sirach also warns of the dangers of careless associations. He speaks of companions who can lead one into harm, urging caution in choosing friends. The company a person keeps influences their path, shaping their character and decisions. This echoes the wisdom of Proverbs 13 verse 20, which says that whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. Sirach's concern was not only for individual happiness, but for moral integrity, recognizing that relationships have the power either to strengthen or to corrupt. In reflecting on these lessons, we see how relevant they remain today. In a world filled with fleeting connections and shallow interactions, the craving for authentic friendship is strong. Social media may provide contact, but rarely offers the depth of loyalty and sacrifice that Sirach describes. His words challenge us to look beyond the surface, to seek relationships marked by truth and commitment, and to be such friends ourselves. The value of one true friend, he reminds us, outweighs a multitude of fair-weather companions. True friendship, according to Sirach, is not only a human gift, but also a reflection of divine love. It mirrors the faithfulness of God, who never abandons his people even in their darkest moments. By nurturing friendships grounded in loyalty and integrity, we participate in a truth that is larger than ourselves. A truth that reveals the beauty of selfless love. Such friendships not only bring joy, but also teach us how to live with patience, forgiveness, and grace. The challenge lies in being as faithful a friend as we hope to find. Sirach's wisdom is not only about recognizing false friends, but also about becoming trustworthy ourselves. To embody loyalty, to speak truthfully, to stand firm in trials. These are the marks of one who honors the gift of friendship. His words remind us that while circumstances may test relationships, the choice to remain steadfast rests in the character of the individuals involved. In this way, Sirach's teaching on friendship becomes both a guide and a mirror. It guides us in choosing companions wisely, and it mirrors back to us the question of what kind of friends we ourselves are. Friendship that lasts is not the result of chance, but of deliberate commitment, cultivated through honesty, sacrifice, and love. When we embrace this vision, we discover that true friendship is one of the greatest blessings of life, a treasure that enriches the soul and endures beyond hardship. Among the themes that reveal Sirach's keen understanding of human life, his reflections on speech stand with particular force. He saw clearly that words carry immense power, the ability to build or to break, to heal or to wound. Unlike fleeting actions, words can linger, echoing in hearts and shaping relationships long after they are spoken. This is why he devoted careful attention to the tongue, warning against its dangers and urging his listeners to use it with wisdom and restraint. Sirach speaks of the tongue as a small member with great influence, capable of setting entire lives on a course of peace or conflict. Gossip, slander, and careless words can ignite strife, destroy reputations, and unravel trust within families and communities. He understood how quickly spoken words, once released, cannot be recalled, much like sparks that can ignite a forest. In this, he echoes the wisdom later found in James 3 verse 6, where the tongue is described as a fire that can corrupt the whole person. At the same time, Sirach recognized that words can also bring healing, encouragement, and restoration. A gentle response can calm anger, a timely word can lift a weary soul, and sincere counsel can guide someone away from danger. The tongue, when guided by wisdom, becomes an instrument of blessing, strengthening relationships and building peace. This dual power makes speech one of the most significant areas of human responsibility, for in every conversation lies the potential to either nurture or to harm. Sirach warns particularly against the destructive habit of gossip. He describes how idle talk can spread like poison, tearing apart friendships and sowing discord. His warnings are not exaggerated, for even today we see how rumors can destroy reputations, how slander can wound deeply, and how careless words spoken in anger can divide entire communities. By calling for caution and restraint, he reminds us that silence is sometimes wiser than speech, and that not every thought needs to be spoken aloud. The discipline of the tongue, according to Sirach, is a mark of true wisdom. It requires self-control, patience, and the ability to consider the impact of words before they are spoken. This restraint is not weakness, but strength, for it takes greater power to hold back a destructive word than to release it in anger. Sirach's teaching aligns with the wisdom of Proverbs 18 verse 21, which declares that death and life are in the power of the tongue. To recognize this truth is to understand that speech carries eternal weight. In reflecting on his teaching today, the relevance is striking. Our world is filled with words, spoken, written, and broadcast across countless platforms. Social media has multiplied the reach of speech, allowing gossip and slander to spread faster than ever before. The temptation to speak hastily, to comment harshly, or to spread rumors is constant. Sirach's voice rises above the noise, calling us back to responsibility, to careful speech that honors truth and seeks peace. The beauty of words rightly spoken is that they can become instruments of grace. A word of forgiveness can mend a broken relationship. A word of encouragement can give strength to the weary, and a word of truth can guide someone out of error. Such speech reflects the wisdom of God, bringing light where there is darkness and healing where there is pain. Sirach's counsel invites us to recognize this power and to use it intentionally for good. When we take his words to heart, we begin to see speech not as casual or insignificant, but as a sacred trust. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to either bless or to wound, to either strengthen or to destroy. Sirach's wisdom encourages us to choose carefully, to weigh our words, and to remember that once spoken, they carry effects beyond our control. In this way, the tongue becomes not only a tool of communication, but a measure of character. By teaching us about the power of speech, Sirach holds a mirror to our lives, asking us to reflect on how we use our words each day. Are they filled with kindness, honesty, and encouragement, or are they careless, harsh, and destructive? His words remind us that wisdom begins with awareness, and from awareness flows discipline. To follow his teaching is to commit ourselves to speech that heals rather than harms, speech that reflects truth rather than falsehood, and speech that brings life rather than destruction. Discipline is often misunderstood as something harsh, restrictive, or joyless. Yet in the writings of Sirach it is presented as a path of strength and wisdom. For him, discipline is not about punishment but about shaping character, guiding desires, and bringing order to life. Without discipline, people drift aimlessly, enslaved by impulses and easily led astray. With discipline, they gain self-mastery, clarity, and the ability to pursue what is good. This makes discipline not a burden, but a gift, a safeguard that protects the heart from destruction and allows wisdom to flourish. Sirach knew that the undisciplined life quickly falls into excess, whether in pleasure, wealth, or speech. He describes how indulgence, when unchecked, leads to ruin. The appetite that is never restrained grows into greed. The desire that is never curbed becomes lust, and the tongue that is never controlled turns into a weapon of destruction. By contrast, the person who learns self-control finds freedom rather than bondage, because they are not ruled by every passing urge. Discipline creates space for true joy by keeping desires in their proper place. One area where Sirach often connects discipline is work. He praises diligence and warns against laziness, showing that idleness breeds poverty and disgrace, while steady effort leads to stability and honor. His insights remind us that discipline in work is not about endless toil, but about responsibility, perseverance, and commitment. Work becomes meaningful when approached with discipline, as it reflects integrity and provides for one's needs and the needs of others. In this way, discipline transforms labor into an act of wisdom. He also speaks of moderation in pleasures. Sirach does not deny enjoyment or beauty, but insists on balance. To overindulge in food, drink, or leisure weakens the body and clouds the mind, but moderation strengthens both. His wisdom reflects the truth that unchecked indulgence enslaves, while disciplined enjoyment leads to gratitude and health. This perspective is strikingly relevant in today's world, where excess is often celebrated and restraint is misunderstood. Sirach's call to moderation is a call to freedom. Patience is another form of discipline, he emphasizes. Impatience leads to anger, rash decisions, and regret, while patience allows for reflection, wisdom, and peace. A disciplined spirit does not react hastily, but considers carefully before acting. This restraint protects relationships, preserves peace, and prevents harm. Sirach's insights remind us that patience is not passive but active strength, requiring courage to wait and trust rather than forcing outcomes. Discipline also plays a vital role in spiritual life. Sirach ties it closely to the fear of the Lord, showing that true discipline flows from reverence for God. Without this foundation, discipline can become rigid or self-serving. With it, discipline becomes an act of devotion, aligning the heart with divine order. Just as a student submits to the guidance of a teacher, so too the wise submit their lives to God's instruction, finding joy in obedience and strength in restraint. In many ways, discipline is the root that nourishes other virtues. Humility requires discipline of pride. Friendship requires discipline of selfishness. And wise speech requires discipline of the tongue. Sirach understood that wisdom cannot grow in a life without boundaries, for discipline is the soil in which it takes root. This is why he speaks so often of self-control, urging his readers to embrace it not as limitation, but as the path to true freedom. When we reflect on his teaching today, it offers a powerful counter to a culture that often glorifies indulgence and mocks restraint. Sirach calls us to rediscover the beauty of discipline, to see it as the key to integrity, balance, and lasting joy. His voice reminds us that discipline is not about losing freedom, but about gaining the ability to live fully, to choose rightly, and to reflect wisdom in every aspect of life. Few themes in Sirach are given such emphasis as the call to honor parents. He speaks with urgency about the duty of children toward father and mother, not only as an act of obedience, but as a path to blessing and harmony. This teaching is rooted deeply in the commandment given through Moses, yet Sirach expands upon it, showing how honor for parents reflects reverence for God and establishes order within family and society. Sirach describes honoring parents as an act of gratitude. Parents provide life, nurture and guidance, often with sacrifice and care. To respect and honor them is to acknowledge this gift, to live with thankfulness rather than ingratitude. His teaching reminds us that dishonor toward parents is not merely a private failure, but a disruption of the natural order, an offense that carries spiritual weight. By honoring parents, children reflect a heart that values both human and divine authority. He also highlights the blessings that flow from honoring father and mother. Long life, peace, and prosperity are promised to those who keep this command. These blessings are not mere rewards, but the natural fruit of harmony within family life. Respect for parents creates unity, stability, and love, shaping children who themselves will pass on respect to future generations. In this way, honoring parents becomes a foundation for healthy communities and enduring families. Sirach speaks with particular tenderness about caring for parents in their old age. He urges children not to abandon or neglect them when they become weak, but to show kindness, patience, and compassion. Even if the mind of a parent falters, the child must not despise them. This teaching reveals the depth of his concern for dignity and respect, especially in the most vulnerable seasons of life. In honoring parents during weakness, children reflect the heart of God, who values every life at every stage. The weight of this command is underscored by warnings against dishonor. Sirach declares that those who dishonor their parents bring shame upon themselves and face judgment. He does not soften his words, for he understood that disrespect for parents erodes not only family bonds, but also reverence for God. In this way, honoring parents is more than personal duty, it is a reflection of spiritual health. A society that neglects its elders loses its roots, drifting into decay and disorder. In reflecting on his teaching today, the relevance is striking. Many cultures wrestle with fractured families, generational divides, and neglect of the elderly. Sirach's words cut through this confusion, reminding us that respect for parents is not optional, but essential. It heals divisions, restores dignity, and creates harmony. His wisdom offers hope for families torn apart by conflict, calling them back to respect, compassion, and love. At the same time, honoring parents does not mean blind submission to wrongdoing. Sirach's teaching assumes parents guiding in righteousness, not in destruction. Yet even when parents falter, respect and care are still due, for honor flows not from perfection, but from position. This balance teaches us to navigate family struggles with both truth and grace, upholding respect while pursuing righteousness. In honoring parents, we also honor the Creator, who established family as the first community of human life. Sirach's words remind us that to cherish family bonds is to align ourselves with divine wisdom, to reflect God's own love and care. When children honor father and mother, and when parents guide with wisdom and compassion, the result is not only personal blessing, but a testimony of God's design for human life. Sirach speaks with clarity about money, possessions, and the dangers of misplaced trust in riches. He understood that wealth can be both a blessing and a curse, depending on how it is used and where one places their trust. Greed and pride in wealth lead to corruption and oppression, while generosity and contentment lead to peace and joy. His reflections reveal a balanced view, recognizing the value of material provision, but warning against making it the ultimate pursuit. He warns strongly against arrogance that comes with riches. Those who boast in wealth forget their dependence on God and often oppress the poor. Sirach sees clearly how riches can blind the heart, leading to false security and moral decay. His words remind us that wealth is fleeting, unable to provide lasting security or eternal value. By placing trust in possessions, people set themselves up for disappointment, for when riches vanish, so too does the false sense of power they provide. At the same time, Sirach does not despise wealth itself, but addresses the attitude toward it. He praises generosity, urging the wealthy to use their resources for the good of others. Giving to the poor, supporting the needy, and practicing hospitality reflect the true purpose of wealth. In this way, riches become not a source of pride, but a tool of blessing, turning material abundance into spiritual fruit. He also praises contentment, showing that true wealth is not measured by possessions, but by peace of heart. A person who lives simply satisfied with what they have is richer than one who constantly craves more. This insight speaks powerfully to modern struggles, where endless pursuit of wealth often leaves people restless and dissatisfied. Sirach's voice calls us back to gratitude, reminding us that joy is found not in abundance, but in thankfulness. His compassion for the poor is evident throughout his writings. He warns against mocking or neglecting those in need, declaring that God hears their cries. Oppression of the poor, he insists, brings judgment, while kindness toward them brings blessing. This teaching reflects the consistent message of Scripture as seen in Proverbs 19 verse 17, where it says that whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord. Sirach aligns with this truth, urging his readers to recognize the dignity of the poor and to act with justice and mercy. The dangers of envy are also addressed, for poverty can tempt people to resent the wealthy, and wealth can tempt people to despise the poor. Sirach warns against both, calling for humility and compassion in every circumstance. Riches and poverty alike are temporary conditions, but character and righteousness endure. This perspective lifts the conversation beyond material levels, pointing to the deeper truth that true wealth is measured in wisdom, faithfulness, and love. In reflecting on his wisdom today, we see how urgently it speaks into a world consumed by materialism. The pursuit of wealth dominates much of life, yet often leaves emptiness in its wake. Sirach invites us to reframe our view, to see wealth as a tool for service, poverty as a context for trust, and true riches as virtues that cannot be bought or sold. His words remind us that possessions are temporary, but wisdom and righteousness are eternal. True wealth, in Sirach's vision, is found in living rightly before God and others. Generosity, contentment, gratitude, and compassion are the treasures that endure beyond death. By calling us to embrace this vision, Sirach frees us from the tyranny of greed and invites us into the joy of simplicity and service. His words remind us that the wealth of the heart is greater than the wealth of the hand, and that those who live in righteousness possess riches beyond measure. Sirach's wisdom is remarkable not only for its depth but for its practicality. He did not confine wisdom to lofty ideas or abstract theories, but brought it into the details of everyday life. For him, wisdom was meant to guide choices about work, eating, relationships, justice, and community. By grounding wisdom in daily living, he showed that true spirituality is inseparable from the ordinary, and that holiness is revealed not only in sacred spaces, but in every decision. He speaks about work, reminding his readers that diligence and integrity are marks of wisdom. Honest labor brings stability and honor, while laziness brings shame. This echoes his emphasis on discipline, showing that daily effort shapes character and provides for needs. By lifting up work as a place where wisdom is lived, Sirach dignifies ordinary tasks, reminding us that wisdom is not reserved for scholars or priests, but is accessible to everyone in their daily duties. Eating is another area where he offers guidance. He warns against gluttony and excess, urging moderation and gratitude. Meals for him are not only about sustenance, but about fellowship and thanksgiving. By exercising restraint and giving thanks, eating becomes an act of wisdom, a reminder that even the simplest act of life can reflect reverence for God. His teaching speaks to a culture of indulgence, calling us back to simplicity, moderation, and gratitude, Sirach also addresses relationships with neighbors and communities. He urges fairness, kindness, and honesty, warning against deceit and betrayal. He recognized that communities thrive on trust and collapse under selfishness and injustice. His wisdom reflects the truth that righteousness is not only a private matter, but a public one, shaping how people live together. Injustice, gossip, and dishonesty tear communities apart, but fairness and kindness build them up. Justice is a theme he ties closely to wisdom. He calls for honesty in dealings, fairness in judgment, and compassion for the vulnerable. Wisdom, for Sirach, is not detached from morality, but is deeply bound to it. To live wisely is to live justly, to align one's actions with what is true and good. Sirach's words remind us that wisdom without justice is empty, but wisdom expressed through justice brings peace. His reflections on temptation and sin also ground wisdom in daily life. He warns against placing oneself in situations that invite failure, urging caution in choices and environments. Wisdom is not only about knowing what is right, but about avoiding paths that lead to harm. This practical guidance reflects his deep understanding of human weakness and his desire to equip people with strategies for holiness. Sirach shows that wisdom is not hidden in mystery, but available in the ordinary. The way one speaks, eats, works, treats others, and handles possessions all reveal whether wisdom is present. By connecting wisdom to the daily, he teaches that every choice matters, that every action reflects the heart, and that holiness is found not only in worship, but in the rhythm of life. In today's world, this perspective is both challenging and freeing. It challenges us to examine the ordinary with seriousness, recognizing that small choices carry weight. At the same time, it frees us from thinking that holiness is unreachable, showing us that it can be lived in the simplest actions of love, honesty, and discipline. Sirach's vision of wisdom in daily living offers a way of life that is both grounded and elevated, practical and spiritual, ordinary and sacred. As the teachings of Sirach unfold, one truth emerges above all others. Wisdom is not simply the result of human effort or intellectual pursuit, but a gift that flows from God Himself. Every reflection on humility, discipline, friendship, family, and daily living ultimately points back to this foundation. Sirach reminds his readers that no matter how much knowledge one may acquire, true wisdom begins with reverence for the Lord, for He is the source, the guide, and the sustainer of all understanding. He declares with confidence that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This phrase, repeated throughout the scriptures, is not about fear in the sense of terror, but about awe, reverence, and deep respect. To fear the Lord is to recognize His greatness, to submit to His authority, and to align one's life with His will. This posture opens the heart to receive wisdom, for it acknowledges that human understanding is limited, while God's wisdom is infinite. Without this foundation, all other pursuits of knowledge are fragile and incomplete. Sirach also reflects on the way God reveals His wisdom to humanity. He sees creation itself as a testimony of divine order, a reflection of God's wisdom woven into the fabric of the world. The cycles of the seasons, the laws of nature, and the beauty of life all point to the wisdom of the Creator. In observing these things, people are invited to humility and gratitude, recognizing that the world is not random, but designed with purpose and meaning. To live wisely is to live in harmony with this divine order. At the same time, Sirach understood that wisdom is not only about knowledge of the world, but also about the transformation of the heart. He calls his readers to purity, justice, kindness, and integrity, virtues that cannot be manufactured by human will alone, but are cultivated through the guidance of God. The wise person is not only skilled in thought, but also righteous in action, living in a way that reflects the character of the Creator. This unity of wisdom and righteousness is at the core of Sirach's teaching. The vision of wisdom he presents points forward, preparing hearts to recognize its fullness in Christ, who is later revealed as the Word made flesh and the very embodiment of divine wisdom. While Sirach did not see this fulfillment in his own time, his words set the stage for it, teaching his readers to look to God as the ultimate source of truth and life. His wisdom becomes a bridge, carrying forward the heritage of Israel and pointing to the greater revelation yet to come. For those who receive his words today, the message remains timeless. In a world filled with countless voices claiming to offer wisdom, Sirach directs us to the only true source. Human philosophies rise and fall, cultural trends shift and fade, but the wisdom of God endures forever. To build one's life upon it is to find a foundation that cannot be shaken, a light that guides through every season, and a truth that leads to life. His closing vision is one of invitation. Wisdom is not reserved for the elite or the powerful, but is offered to all who seek it with sincerity. The poor, the rich, the young, the old, all are invited to walk in the fear of the Lord, to embrace humility, and to live with reverence. In doing so, they discover not only knowledge, but joy, not only instruction, but peace. Sirach's voice, echoing across the centuries, calls each of us to choose the path of wisdom, to walk in harmony with God, and to let his truth shape every part of life. When we look back at the lessons of Sirach on humility, friendship, speech, discipline, family, wealth, and daily living, we see how each theme leads us to this ultimate conclusion. All wisdom flows from God, all virtues are sustained by him, and all truth is fulfilled in him. To live wisely is to live in reverence, to walk faithfully, and to trust in the Lord, who gives understanding generously to those who seek him. The book of Sirach, often overlooked and forgotten, holds treasures of wisdom that remain as powerful today as when they were first written. It reminds us that humility is the crown of wisdom, that friendship rooted in loyalty endures, that words have the power to heal or destroy, that discipline is the path to strength, that honoring parents brings blessing, that riches cannot compare to generosity and contentment, that wisdom belongs to every part of daily life, and that God himself is the source of all truth. These lessons, written centuries ago, continue to address the struggles of our time with clarity and depth. They call us back to a life rooted in reverence, shaped by righteousness, and guided by wisdom that comes from above. In rediscovering Sirach, we do not simply learn about the past, we find guidance for the present and hope for the future. If you found value in this message, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss more content like this. Give this video a like to help others discover it. Leave a comment to share your thoughts and reflections. And share this video with your family and friends so that they too can uncover the wisdom of Sirach and be encouraged in their own journey of faith.